A look at Venice this morning, where the star-studded wedding celebration of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos.
It's an impossible city. It can't exist. And yet here it is.
Brand new video, brand new photos. The Billionaire and his brand new bride married on the island of Sanchez.
What if I told you that the richest man on earth just threw a wedding so bizarre, so over the top, and so image-obsessed that it felt less like a sacred vow and more like a global PR stunt? This wasn't just any wedding. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez didn't walk down the aisle in quiet luxury or behind closed doors, surrounded by loved ones who've known them since the beginning. No, this was a carefully orchestrated, celebrity-drenched event set in Venice, dripping in wealth, foam, cameras, and calculated spectacle. From Oprah and Gayle King arriving like royalty to oiled-up Kardashians stepping off water taxis in skin-tight outfits to foam parties on mega-yachts, everything about this weekend screamed, "Look at us." But the real question is, why? Why did two people who claim to be in love decide to put on a show for the world with the most carefully selected cast of A-listers, most of whom weren't even around during the Amazon garage days? Some are calling it decadent, some are calling it desperate, others are calling it exactly what it looks like. A freak show of wealth and power, curated for the cameras, designed to leave the rest of us speechless. But when you peel back the champagne-soaked layers, what's really going on behind the Botoxed smiles and billion-dollar backdrops? Because this wasn't just a wedding, it was a message. And what it said was louder than any vow. When you're worth $250 billion, you'd think your wedding would be filled with the people who truly know you. The ones who were there before the money, the fame, and the fleets of super yachts. But Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez made it crystal clear. This wasn't about old friends. It was about optics. The guest list wasn't just exclusive, it was strategic. Oprah and Gayle were front and center, the ultimate image boosters. Tom Brady was there too, fresh off his own PR roller coaster. The Kardashians, because what's a modern spectacle without them? Scooter Braun, Orlando Bloom, and even two of Bezos's Blue Origin space buddies made the cut. It was a bizarre mashup of tech, celebrity, scandal, and influence, but almost none of it screamed lifelong friendship. In fact, one of the few celebrities who didn't show up might say more than all the ones who did. Reese Witherspoon reportedly declined her invite to Meghan and Harry's royal wedding years ago, saying simply, "I don't know them." That moment, that honesty, feels refreshing when compared to what Bezos and Lauren were chasing here. Not intimacy, but image. Because let's be honest, when your wedding looks more like a red carpet rollout than a vow exchange, you're not just getting married, you're putting on a show, and what it said was louder than any vow. Now, if the guest list raised eyebrows, the party that followed left jaws on the floor. We're talking foam parties on mega-yachts. Not one yacht, multiple. Because apparently when you're a billionaire, your yacht needs a support yacht to carry your toys and your less important guests. Lauren Sanchez's friends, for example, reportedly stashed on a backup boat, while the A-listers got the main deck, and then came the foam. Literal mountains of it pouring across the decks like some frat house fantasy. And this wasn't some casual seaside celebration. It was a floating photo op, soaked in excess and engineered for spectacle. But here's the kicker. It wasn't private, not even close. Every moment, from the Kardashians climbing off water taxis in skin-tight catsuits to Bezos flexing on the upper deck, was perfectly captured by paparazzi. And not by accident, because as many have pointed out, nobody accidentally gets photographed on a yacht in the middle of the Mediterranean. You have to want to be seen. It's the same reason we never miss a J-Lo yacht appearance. These moments are staged, phones tipped off, lenses ready. The message? Watch us. Obsess over us. talk about us, and we do. But while we're staring at the foam and glitter, what are we missing? Lauren Sánchez didn't always look like this. Before the mega-yachts and Bezos billions, she was a respected journalist, a licensed helicopter pilot, and a woman who built herself up from nothing. Back then, she had a natural beauty, confident, sharp, and grounded. But that version of Lauren? She's long gone. Since getting involved with Jeff Bezos, her appearance has changed dramatically. Her face now looks frozen, stretched, and pumped full of filler. Her body has become more exaggerated, surgically enhanced curves that seem less about personal choice and more about playing a role. And it's not just fans noticing, it's the press, former colleagues, and even longtime friends quietly asking, what happened to her? Some say it's the pressure of dating the richest man alive. Others suspect it's Jeff himself calling the shots. And while it might sound dramatic, it wouldn't be the first time a powerful man controlled how his partner looked. In fact, look back at recent high-profile allegations like Cassie's claims about Diddy demanding she get unwanted surgeries. There's a dark pattern here: wealth, power, and image control. And while there's no proof Bezos is doing the same, the optics around Lauren's transformation feel eerily familiar. Whatever the reason, Lauren's once relatable image is now unrecognizable, and it begs the question, what does it cost to become a billionaire's ideal? Jeff Bezos used to be the ultimate tech nerd, quiet, balding, awkward, the kind of guy who blended into a conference room, not strutted across a yacht deck. But now, he's unrecognizable. Bezos 2.0 is tanned, jacked, gleaming, and, as some brutally pointed out, looks like a walking penis. And honestly, it's hard to argue with that. His head is shaved, shiny, and perfectly round. His muscles are tight and over-defined. His smile feels forced, like a man trying to prove something, and maybe he is. This isn't just a glow-up, this is a complete reinvention, one that screams overcompensation. Insiders say it all began after his messy divorce from Mackenzie Scott and the very public scandal of his leaked affair with Lauren. That's when the new Jeff emerged, hypermasculine, hypersexualized, and obsessed with being seen as powerful, wanted, and untouchable. The foam parties, the flexing, the constant photo ops. It's like he's trying to erase the awkward kid who got overlooked in high school, the billionaire genius who could never land the hot girl. And now, he's making damn sure the world sees him with one on his arm in every single frame. But behind the muscles and Botox, is this still about love? Or is it all just one long, expensive, and deeply public revenge fantasy? If this wedding was about love, why did it feel so hollow? Everything from the location to the guest list to the endless paparazzi coverage screamed performance. Not connection, not meaning, not sincerity, just status. Bezos and Sanchez didn't get married in a private ceremony surrounded by lifelong friends or family. They got married in Venice, one of the most photographed cities on Earth, during peak travel season, knowing the world would be watching. And what did the world see? Celebrity guests who barely know them, foam parties that felt more like Ibiza than I do, and enough plastic surgery to make a real housewife blush. Even the locals in Venice reportedly didn't want them there. Residents say they were frustrated by the disruption, the spectacle, the blatant disregard for the city's culture. And honestly, can you blame them? Because this wasn't a wedding. It was a broadcast, a billionaire flex, a real-life episode of Succession meets Keeping Up with the Kardashians. No speeches from childhood friends, no emotional tributes from parents, just high-gloss images for the tabloids and thirst-trap content for Instagram. Love? Maybe. But if you listened closely, the vows were drowned out by the sound of a very expensive middle finger pointed straight at the rest of us. For all the glitz and filters, one question keeps coming up. Is Lauren Sánchez still herself, or has she become whatever Jeff Bezos wants her to be? Because from the outside, it looks like she's morphed into a character he designed. Hypersexual, surgically sculpted, constantly on display. Her old life, as a journalist, pilot, and woman with her own voice, feels like a distant memory. And her new life? It's starting to look like a billionaire's curated fantasy. She shows up at elite events, dressed to shock, plunging necklines, bodycon dresses, and photos that leave very little to the imagination. Take her infamous appearance at Donald Trump's inauguration, for example. A tuxedo-style outfit with cleavage down to her waist, standing beside Zuckerberg, Bezos, and a parade of powerful men. That wasn't a fashion statement, it was a calculated move. But whose calculation was it? Because here's the disturbing theory floating around. Lauren isn't dressing for herself, she's dressing for Jeff. And if that sounds controlling, remember, we've seen stories like this before. Diddy allegedly dictated Cassie's surgeries down to the exact implants. Lauren's change, both in body and in public behavior, is so extreme, it raises a chilling question. Is she in charge of her own image anymore? Her friends? They're not journalists or pilots. They're Kris Jenner, the Kardashians, and Katy Perry. Celebrity influencers who've made careers out of branding their bodies. And now, Lauren fits right in, perfectly polished, surgically symmetrical, painfully plastic. She once flew helicopters over Los Angeles. Now she poses in bikinis on the deck of a man's yacht, smiling through filler and flashing cameras. Whatever freedom she once had, it may have flown away a long time ago. Let's be honest, nothing about this wedding felt romantic. It felt angry. It felt like someone settling a score. Because the deeper you look, the more this starts to resemble a revenge fantasy, not a love story. A spectacle, crafted by a man who spent years being overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. And now, with $250 billion and the whole world watching, he's making sure no one can ignore him ever again. Jeff Bezos was once the classic underdog, a brilliant nerd who couldn't get the popular girl. Now, he's built an empire, bought the girl, and turned her into a living billboard of his success. Everything about Lauren, her appearance, her behavior, her wardrobe, feels like part of his brand. The wedding wasn't just about them. It was about showing the world that he won, that he doesn't just own companies, he owns attention, he owns status, he owns the spotlight. Even the foam party wasn't random. That level of excess, the symbolic eruption of foam over a $500 million yacht, it felt juvenile, performative, even sexual. As one commentator put it, it's like a giant billionaire ejaculation. Crude? Maybe. But the metaphor sticks. This wasn't just celebration, it was domination. And in the center of it all was Lauren, smiling on cue, flaunting a body sculpted by pressure, floating on a sea of luxury that doesn't look like freedom. It looks like control. Maybe that's the real story here. A tech genius, rejected by the world he now rules, finally gets his crown, his queen, and his parade. Not out of love, but out of vengeance. In the end, Jeff Bezos didn't just throw a wedding. He staged a declaration. Not of love, but of image, of power, of control. From the foam-drenched yacht parties to the curated guest list of A-listers and reality stars, everything felt manufactured, scripted, like a commercial for a lifestyle only a handful of people can buy into, and even fewer can survive. Lauren Sánchez may have walked down that aisle, but the question isn't whether she said yes. The question is, to what? Because the woman who once flew her own helicopter now seems to be co-piloting someone else's fantasy. And it's costing her more than anyone can see. As for Bezos, he may have conquered space, built an empire, and rewritten retail history, but none of that seemed to satisfy him. Not really. Because this wedding, this whole over-the-top performance, didn't feel like a celebration of love. It felt like a billionaire screaming at the world, "Look at me now." But here's the twist. The more they try to show us perfection, the more we start to see the cracks. The desperation behind the glamour. The insecurity beneath the muscles. The loneliness hiding behind the fame. And maybe that's the saddest part of all. Because money can buy yachts, dresses, and attention, but it can't buy authenticity. And this wedding? It wasn't sacred. It was staged.